Let's start with a couple of brief introductions. I am Steve Welch. I am the executive director of Invite Welcome Connect. Prior to being with Invite Welcome Connect, I was canon for communications in the Episcopal Diocese of New Jersey, and I come off of a fairly long career in publishing and in online education, particularly continuing professional education. I'm joined today by the Reverend Chris Harris, who is senior associate rector of Christ Church in Cranbrook, Michigan. Chris is a member of the Invite Welcome Connect Board of Directors. He is also the primary instructor in our on-demand training for the Invite portion of our training. And Chris, prior to being on the Invite Welcome Connect board, was on the board of the Episcopal Network for Stewardship, or TENS. Chris, say hi to the good people.
Hello, good people. Great to see you all here. Fantastic to have so many people in this webinar. And yes, delighted to be talking about my two favorite topics, evangelism and fundraising, because I know it's all of your favorite topics as well. I am coming to you from a conference, so I'm going to keep my fingers crossed about the Wi-Fi connection here. Over to you, Steve.
All right. Thanks, Chris. And I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to share some slides here that we will try not to be too slide dependent. We are also joined today, she doesn't know I'm going to call on her, but by Mary McGregor, who is the absolute expert, short of Mary Foster Palmer herself, our founder and consultant. Mary McGregor has been with Invite Welcome Connect since the beginning, I think. And so we are thrilled to have her, and I'm sure we could persuade her at some point to have a thing or two to say. Thank you for being here, Mary. I put her on the spot, so I won't make. All right, so let's go. So first off, what is Invite Welcome Connect? And I hope a lot of you are already familiar with it, but it is just basically a framework for cultivating within your congregation and within yourselves, a framework for evangelism. And we don't shy away from that word here. We're taking that word back. Evangelism, hospitality, and belonging. It is intended to be completely adaptable to your own context, whether you're a large congregation, a small congregation, urban, rural, struggling, successful, or however you want to define those terms. It is set up to be adaptable to your own context. And I mentioned small congregations. Mary McGregor will be doing a series of webinars specifically on small congregations and Invite Welcome Connect. We'll have more information about that later. But it helps churches and church communities and the people within the churches determine and discover their own unique gifts and their own calling for these areas. It's not something that, you're not going to walk away from Invite Welcome Connect training with a rigid set of here's exactly what you need to do. It's about how you discover what it is that you yourself should be doing in your own context. And so we've been accused sometimes of being a church growth program, and we say it is not a church growth program per se. Church growth is a side effect, a byproduct of changing the hearts of the people in your congregation, in your community, to embrace the concepts of evangelism, hospitality, and belonging. Chris, would you say that's true?
Amen to that. Very much a relationship and a discipleship framework, I think. As many of you probably know, if you do the work of relationship, you do the work of discipleship and formation and outreach, the growth will come. What Invite Welcome Connect does is offer a framework so that congregations can work on each one of those areas with greater intentionality.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. And we do find, people come sometimes well-meaning, well-intentioned. They'll say, "How do I grow my church? How do I get more people in? How do I do this?" And we say that's the wrong question. The question is how do we change ourselves to be more Christ-like and more intentional, more relational, and that will bring more people in. But if you do it as a numbers game, it isn't going to work well for you. You do it as a way to change yourselves first. So just a little bit about our origins. We were founded by Mary Foster Palmer, and it's more than 15 years ago now. Mary, and that's Mary in the photo there with Bishop Curry. Mary worked on this a lot within the Diocese of Texas and the Episcopal Diocese of Texas. I know we probably have some non-Episcopalians in the room. Please be nice to them. And then, it was later based at the University of the South or Sewanee. Mary started doing live workshops, which she has done all over the world for churches, for dioceses, at conferences, and at seminaries. I myself encountered Mary years ago, both at a workshop here in the Diocese of New Jersey and also at the Rooted in Jesus conference in Atlanta some years ago. And really gave me a fire for this work. A couple of years ago, we added coaching services, and we'll talk more about coaching later. Invite, Welcome, Connect coach who can help you with your ministry, and we'll talk more about that, but also has done online webinars and summits and lots of stuff like that began a couple of years ago. Last year in 2024, Invite, Welcome, Connect became an independent 501c3 charitable organization, unaffiliated with anyone else directly. Now, you may say to yourself, Steve, an independent 501c3 charitable organization, does that mean I can make tax-free donations to Invite, Welcome, Connect? Sure you can, and we would be happy to take them. Beginning of this year, and by beginning I mean January 1, we launched Invite, Welcome, Connect on Demand, which is a set of online trainings that kind of reinterpreted and reimagined Mary Palmer's face-to-face workshops for a digital age. So we have online video training, as well as a whole host of downloadable resources and articles that we do every month, and a whole bunch of stuff on the site to help you with this ministry going on. The core values of Invite, Welcome, Connect. Although maybe before I move on, Chris, anything I missed that people need to know about our origins?
Nope. Just, with respect to the on-demand, we launched that not just to move into the digital era, but really to get Invite, Welcome, Connect into the hands of smaller congregations, mid-sized congregations, for whom our traditional model of weekend workshops was too periodic, too expensive, and so forth. So it is the kind of work that is year-round. It's something you want to come back to again and again and again. It's not the work that it can really be contained in a one-time workshop. That's great to get you kicked off. But the long-term sustainable work of hospitality and evangelism is something that you want to be able to come back to. And that's part of the benefit, I think, of offering an on-demand format, so that you can work, if your church is called to, say, work in the area of Connect right now, you can focus on Connect. And then a year later, 2 years later, something like that, turn around and start making Invite your focus, and so forth.
Thanks, Chris. And I did not mention, as part of our origin stories, Mary Palmer's book, Invite, Welcome, Connect, Stories to Transform Your Church, which has been available. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but it's been available since, I think, 2016, if I'm remembering correctly, but it's available from Forward Movement with bulk discounts. We've also added in the last, this year, a group study guide. If folks want to do within a congregation, want to read the book together and study it together, there's a guide on our website that helps you do that. So let's talk a little bit about the core values of Invite, Welcome, Connect, what's really at the base of it, because it is theologically based, it is based in Scripture, but our four really core values that we adhere to are: one is that prayer always comes first. Prayer and grounding in God's imagination of shared purpose. None of this works unless we keep God at the forefront of things. Unlike sometimes a lot of other kind of ministries or a lot of other attempts to change church culture, it really focuses on intentionality. That is, that the things we're doing here to make our space more welcoming, to reach out more to other people, to bring them into the life of our church, we do on purpose with that in mind. And because we do a lot of things at church, that intentionality really sets a different purpose for it, that we're really trying to make sure that people are welcomed, and that once they are welcomed, once we brought them into the church and we've made them feel welcome, we've incorporated them into the life of our church, and we do that on purpose at each step. And that takes a little bit different mindset sometimes than what we're used to. And I feel like, Chris, is there something you want to say about intentionality?
Yeah, carry on.
Okay.
All of these are good.
Okay, great. Relational, and Chris already touched on this. This is a people-to-people ministry. And so we're more interested in the people and in their stories than we are in the metrics of how many people are coming to church and how many pledges you get and all that sort of thing. And then the fourth core value is accountability. That is that we don't do a thing to do it and then just keep doing it forever, right? The Invite, Welcome, Connect encourages experimentation, but then looking at what the results of that experiment are and deciding whether it's something you want to continue or you want to change. A vibrant, healthy Invite, Welcome, Connect ministry is changing all the time. It's not, here are the things we do for Invite, Welcome, Connect, and this is what we're going to do in March of every year, and this is what we're going to do in September of every year. It's because it is active, because it has all these other things at its core, it's also changeable. And some things you do are going to work, and some things you do are not going to work. And if they're not working, you set them aside, and if they are working, you look for how to make them better. Right, Chris?
You're making me think of all the failed experiments that we've tried over the years. So yes, amen to that. They're a lot of fun, and you always are learning something. I would say too, on this issue of accountability, this is something that we don't do enough in the church. It goes to our intentionality as well, and that is to really focus on, to the extent you can, right, given the resources you have. Let's measure our results. Let's use data as best we can. Let's know, what is our retention rate? How many visitors do we have every year? What percentage of them ultimately convert into a pledging member, for example? That sort of thing. So much of our evangelism work in the church, I would say generally, is left to catch as catch can and anecdotal stories. And those are all beautiful and lovely and life-changing, but we sometimes miss out on the bigger picture of what's happening to all these folks who are going through our back door. Why are we not connecting with them? Why is the gospel not connecting with them when it's so connected with me at this place? What are we missing here? And how do we close those gaps?
Yeah. And I would say those metrics, to add on that just a little bit, you should be measuring how these things happen, but you should also be comparing them against past performance. So how do you know if something succeeded if you're not measuring it? Like we did this last year. This year we did that, and we got more visitors or fewer visitors, or more pledges, fewer pledges. And so really use those kinds of guides to help you see whether you're on the right track or not.
I'll give an example of that. We had a absolutely reliable, methodical welcome during our announcements to newcomers. If you are with us for the first time, we invite you to fill out a welcome card. We love to get to know you. Drop it in the offering plate as it goes by. Something simple like that every single Sunday. And then, and we did, and I could look at the data that resulted in, what was it? I'm going to say 400 visitors filling out the card. When you stopped making that methodical welcome because the person doing the announcements, for whatever reason, didn't want to or wasn't consistent about it, I literally saw the numbers of newcomers who gave us their contact information drop in half.
Mm.
So yes, the card was still there. It was still in the pew. It still said welcome on it. It was still seemingly obvious. And I think that's what this person thought. They don't need me to say that every Sunday. They see the card in the pew. Failing to make the verbal invitation and the instruction made a difference. And you would not have known that if I would not have known that if I hadn't tracked the numbers.
And I think that also speaks to intentionality, Chris, that just putting the cards in the pew and not being intentional about drawing people to them and just expecting it to happen by itself is a lack of intentionality, I think. So let's look at an overview of the three essentials of invite, welcome, connect, which are invite, welcome, and connect. First, for invite, and I don't know, to me, this is something that I think the Episcopal Church in particular, or Episcopalians, the personal invitation is something I think we don't do very well, or very, very often. We're in this American culture where it feels like half of folks are either non-churchgoers and maybe have a negative view of churchgoers, and the other half are the reason people have a negative view of churchgoers. And so we don't want to be lumped into any one of those. Invitation is not walking up to strangers and saying, "Have you been saved? You know, have you come?" It's a lot of things. One of the things it is being able to tell your own story wherever you are. Talking, when people ask, "What did you do this weekend?" and you went to church, and you went to the church picnic, or you went to some other church function, or you went to Sunday school, you did Bible study. Don't be afraid to tell people about that, and how that affected you, and how that moved you. And if people are interested in asking questions, it's okay to say, "We'd love to have you come sometime if you're interested." It's not strong arming them. But invitation goes beyond that. Invitation is also kind of a lot of the activities of the church. Invitation happens. First of all, invitation is something that happens outside the walls of your church. It doesn't happen inside. And invitation can be anything from making sure that you have good signs out on the street that tell people when services are and what you're about, what kind of church you are. I have found, if you are a congregation that is welcoming to the LGBTQ plus community, you need to be clear about that outside your church. Fly the flag, put a welcoming community on your sign, because it makes a huge difference to people who may be afraid to walk in your doors because they don't know what's going to happen. That's being open. That's being inviting. It means going out in the community and being part of your community, being part of the town picnic, or the pride parade, or other things that happen around your community, for your church to be there and present and talking to people about your church and letting them know that you exist. Your outreach efforts, for whether it's soup kitchens or things like that, those are all forms of invitation if you identify them with your church. I would say, and there are different ways of doing this. There may be, some people use like a sharing faith dinner, where you open up the church to the community, and people come in and they share a free meal, and it's not, come in and proselytize to them, but show them what your community is all about. Feed them a meal, and then send them on their way. And if they're interested in learning more, give them the opportunity to learn more. Invitations are always contextual, and contextual meaning where you are and who you're talking to, and being open to the conversations that the Holy Spirit puts in your path, and not just shutting down and saying they might be bothered if I talk about church. Don't bother them. Talk about yourself. Chris, you're our main invite instructor in the on-demand training. What am I missing here?
Well, let me just pick up a couple questions in the chat. Somebody was asking in that example about inviting first-time visitors to fill out a welcome card. Does that single out visitors versus folks who are there every Sunday? Okay, just to be clear, this is not an attendance card. You're not asking the same people to fill out a card every Sunday. Just the first-time visitors. Does that make, in other words, so the invitation is, if you happen to be with us for the first time today, we'd like to invite you to fill out a welcome card so that we can get to know you. Once they do that once, they're done. They don't do it the next week. What my point was, you need to make that invitation every week, even if looking out in the congregation, you don't necessarily see any new folks, because you want to create a culture where when your members do invite a friend, they know that you will be welcoming them and inviting them to take a next step of some kind. So they won't. So it's about, it goes, the frequency and the regularity of that goes not just to the effectiveness, because folks, it turns out, need to be invited to take action, but it also helps to create an ethos, a culture of welcome, of invitation. And that actually encourages your members to invite that neighbor or that friend or that coworker, because they know they will be welcomed in their church and not treated as a non-member or an outsider thing.
Yeah, and we'll talk about more in the welcome portion, but it's also important that if they fill out that card, you do follow up with them.
Yeah, and people are bringing up using QR codes in lieu of welcome cards. Amen. Lots of ways to do it. Do them all. Do them all. Some people won't do the QR code. Some people will. Best way to approach. When you're in that stage of invitation and welcome, you're just trying to you're trying to get everyone's name and number and contact information, because you can't follow up without it. So you want to give them as many different varieties of ways to do that. Have a welcome table, have them in the pews, have a QR code in the bulletin, have it on the website, have a plan your visit page on your website so that people can tell you, they can fill out a welcome card before they even come. And you can be waiting for them at the door to show them around, and you'll actually know if they have kids. And so collecting their information as many different ways as possible at this stage is vital. And so, yes, amen to the QR code question. Steve, there was one question in the chat. Is this going to be made available? Are these slides going to be made available?
Yeah, we'll send out an email with both the link to the recording and a link to the slides as a PDF. So yeah, you can share that.
Steve, there's a question in the chat. What is the criteria for an ideal space for encounter versus marketing?
I think that starts with your intent. If you don't look at people as a marketing opportunity, you will not treat them as a marketing opportunity. And it comes down to being genuine with people. And when someone comes into your space, or you want someone to come into your space, your goal is not to add another person to your church roster. Your goal is to do something wonderful for this other person, whatever that wonderful thing is.
Steve, I have a great story of that. I was running in the Diocese of San Diego, I ran a secret shopper, kind of mystery worshiper program, where we would go around to different churches and kind of imagine to be a first-time visitor and to give them some honest, fresh eyes feedback on their welcome and their hospitality. And I'll never forget going to this one church where during the passing of the peace, somebody says to me, "Do you like kids? Because we've got a great kids program and we could definitely use some more volunteers in our Sunday school." And as she's saying that, another person from about the other side says, "Oh, wait a minute. I heard he likes to sing. What about the choir?" They were literally fighting over me about what kind of roles I might fill in their church on my very first visit. It was like such anxiety. Meanwhile, nobody really had asked me what brought me to that church, what was going on in my life, who am I, where am I from, how long have I lived in the area, am I new to the area, that sort of thing. They weren't interested in my story. They were interested in what role I might be able to fill in the church. Now, that's obviously a very exaggerated story, but I'm sure we've all experienced versions of something like that. The problem there, I think it goes to the difference between authenticity and growth, space for encounter versus marketing.
Yeah. And I think it's fair to say that with newcomers, there should be a whole lot more listening than talking, and responding to their questions, but not, we've all had both experiences at church, at a new church, where you walk in and it's as though we're not there. We're ghosts walking through the building, and nobody acknowledges us and nobody talks to us. And then the other extreme is like, we're fresh meat in the water and the congregation is sharks. Don't do either of those things. react to people with genuine welcome and talking to people and listening to them, why they came to see you today. Are they visiting? Are they new to the area? Are they looking for a church home? But you don't necessarily ask those questions. You draw them out in conversation. And if there are ways that your church can help them and bring them into the life of the community, we'll talk more about that a little bit later. It's not necessarily the time for that. You can talk about the things that your church does, but not say, hey, you should come to choir practice on Thursday. Or, that we have a choir and we're always looking for new people. That's okay. But it's that authenticity. It's that getting to know a new friend and not necessarily looking for how they can benefit your church. How can your church benefit them?
And if I can just chime in on that one, I think one of the areas that makes a difference in the area of invite is to begin to train your congregation and your fellow parishioners to be to have their radar on when it comes to your different events and offerings, and to really think intentionally about who do you know in your life? Who is your neighbor? Who are your friends? Who are your family members who might benefit from something your church is doing? So, for example, many of us are going to be celebrating All Saints, All Souls Day. How many of our churches are taking some time out in the service leading up to those and inviting their members to think, do you know somebody who has lost a loved one in this past year? Somebody who is struggling with grief. All Saints, All Souls service, whichever you're offering or both, can be a beautiful, comforting moment for them that you may want to consider inviting them. And just taking that time to get your own congregation thinking about who they know, who's in that unique season in their life, can turn a very beautiful service into potentially something that's life-giving and, again, as a side effect, potentially evangelizing.
Yeah, similar to a lot of Episcopal churches and a lot of other churches do a blessing of the animals services. And everybody knows somebody who has a pet. And when I say I currently don't have a pet in the house. And so when I'm out and I encounter a dog or whatever, can I say hi to your dog? And I'm petting the dog and stuff like that. But if I have a service coming up and say, we're doing a blessing of the animals, it's, come, priest will bless them and go. It's not a full service. It's just a chance to bring your pet in and get it blessed. A lot of people love that. And it's a way to introduce them to your church. So it's an invitation chance. And so you look for those invitation chances. Again, with a full heart, not a ledger book in your mind.
Steve, can I make a comment?
Sure. Thank you.
Chris mentioned the word training. One of the things that makes Invite, Welcome, Connect unique is that it goes beyond these really good ideas. It really encourages leaders in a team to have opportunities to train people in your congregation, to raise their awareness about these very things we're talking about, to take opportunities to say, have you ever thought about when you do passing of the peace during a service, to go ahead and cross the aisle and shake the hand of someone that you've never seen before in this place. And so the training, I think, is one of the things that makes Invite, Welcome, Connect so unique, because we're all into the creative ideas and trying new things, but actually training greeters to ask people questions and to listen to their stories. And so you raise the bar of the whole congregation as you do opportunities for training. I want to do a really quick example. In our summer series, we all gather in our parish hall. We have a very large parish hall. Instead of a spiritual formation that is divided out into classes, we rotate kind of what we do. So we had 45 minutes last summer to do Invite, Welcome, Connect, a presentation. And what we did was break it out into role playing. And we really helped our people pretend that they were greeting someone they had never met before, or a number of other questions. And we made a lot of fun out of it. But I promise you, when they left that opportunity, they might have had a whole new insight in terms of, oh, I hadn't really thought about that before. and it really begins to change the culture of your congregation. So that is one of the unique things about Invite, Welcome, Connect. We don't just throw out great creative ideas and encourage you to do those things, but also we absolutely encourage training at every opportunity we can have, or you can have.
Yeah, that's right. And could I add to that, Mary, on the other side of that, training on the front end and then celebrating on the back end. So when people invite somebody and they do come and they get involved, how often do we celebrate that at the announcements? So you train people, here's how you make an invitation. Help people with the imagination of an event they might invite someone to. Who would be the person that would really love, appreciate being invited to something like that? And then celebrate those folks who do make those invitations and thereby encouraging others to try as well.
Great, thanks. Thank you both. And that leads perfectly into talking a little bit about welcome. You've invited folks in, or they've just wandered in, and they're new to your church, and they have come in, and the chances are that they are going to decide very quickly. If there's someone who's looking for a new church home, they're going to decide very quickly whether they're going to stay with you or not. And so the welcome they receive, we're talking hospitality here, truly seeing and honoring the other person. The welcome they receive in all aspects is going to help us determine that day whether they're coming back for another day. And so Mary mentioned training. Greeter training is very important. The idea that they can offer a very sincere welcome, and a sincere welcome is not just, hi, we're glad you're here, but making sure that the person coming in your door has the information and the tools that they need to get the experience that they want out of that visit. This also comes into all kinds of things like signage and things like, so, walking, do people know where to park? Is that a place, I've seen a lot of churches where there might not be a parking lot, or the parking lot is kind of around this away. And then where's the entrance to the church from there? Do the signs tell me where I can park and where I can't park? Do the signs tell me how to get into the church if it's not very clear? When I get there, is there somebody there at the door to shake my hand and to bring me in and to find out if I have any questions, like where's the bathroom? If they're not used to the way, every Episcopal church does worship service a little bit differently sometimes. If it's through and through bulletin, or is it a combination of bulletin and Book of Common Prayer? Does the person who comes in the door know what to do with a Book of Common Prayer? A lot of Episcopalians don't. And so what aid do they have children with them? And do they want to keep the children with them, or do they want to send the children to your kids programs? And where are those? And if they're going to the kids program, when will they see the kids again? Those questions that we have been there. We have attended this church for 20 years. And so we know all this, so we don't worry about it. But that person coming in the door for the first time doesn't know these things. And it is an act of courage to walk through the doors of a new church for the first time. And it is incumbent on us to make that act of courage worth the effort, but also a joyful thing for the person who does it, rewarding, worth the effort to come in. And this is where intentionality really comes into play. And we'll have some exercises later on really looking at your worship space, your grounds, and think through the eyes of someone who has never been there before, who maybe has never attended a liturgical church before. How do you greet the stranger in that capacity and make sure that they feel safe, that they're not fumbling if they don't know what to do during the worship service? Is there someone who can help guide them? These are all important things, and it boils down to intentionality. We want to make this as positive an experience for the people coming in as possible. This is their only time in your church so far. Is it their only time in your church ever? What happens in those opening minutes and in that opening hour is going to determine whether those people come back. And so being truly loving, truly welcoming, and truly thoughtful about how that goes into place is crucial. Chris, what do you have to say about this?
But two things. This business of the welcome. I think one of the things that Invite Welcome Connect brings to this topic of welcome, I think all churches have some sense that we need to have a welcome. I think one of the things we bring to this is the idea that this welcome is not just a one-time event. You're not just new at a church on that first visit. So those first impressions that Steve just talked about are absolutely 100% important. Amen. And their second visit's important too. And the following Monday is important. And what do they do a month from now? So this business of welcome, and it kind of starts to slide into connect. But we have a practice in my church where, yes, the welcome card gets filled out, or they do the QR, or they do the online, or we get their numbers, their name and number somehow. And then they get a text that afternoon. Thank you for visiting. Reverend Chris here. Just wanted to say how much I appreciate you visiting today. Let me know if you have any questions. The following Friday, they get a text. Hope to see you in church on Sunday. By the way, I'm putting together the prayer list. If you have any prayer requests, anybody on your heart, happy to pray for them. Those kinds of engagements that you do following that first time visit, invitations to next steps. So you get the welcome card, and there's an invitation to an open house that happens maybe 3 weeks later. So it's a series, it's a sequence. So welcoming is, you start to begin to realize welcome is not a one-time thing. It's an actual journey, and you want to be always inviting them to some sort of small next step. And you always want to be reaching out with some small touch to help people feel seen in a place that they can, to Steve's point, it takes an act of courage to come in there. And so to have this incredible welcome and connection and relationship will overcome a lot of the things we think are wrong with our church. We don't think our buildings are perfect. We don't think our choirs are perfect. We don't know if our preaching's always the best. I'm telling you, relationship, community. We live in a world, right, where the loneliness epidemic is real.
Right.
And we've had the solution to that thing for a long time. And I don't think we've tapped in it nearly as strongly as we could. Building those relationships, and it really starts in that first visit. Steve, there's one question in the chat. What are some of the key skills, attitudes for greeters? Do we want to get into that, or what do you think time-wise?
Well, yeah, I'll say really quickly, because we are running a little bit late. First and foremost is that person at the door should be genuinely happy to see the person coming in. And we know sometimes we give people the greeter job because they don't want to do anything. They don't work well with others. So we put them that they have to be genuinely happy to see that person, and they have to be able to ask the questions to make sure that person coming in has the tools they need coming in. And there's some greeter training that we do, or that we can ask. So let's talk about Connect. Because Connect is that place. Oh, and I should mention, actually, I did want to mention that Chris was talking about follow-up texts to people who first-time visitors. Chris has a great article on our website, and it's available for free to everybody on our news page on some examples of text messages to send to new visitors. I will say, whatever you do, if a person has filled out that card or in some way let them know, given you their information, that they were there, it is so essential to come back and say, we were glad you were here. And you're welcome to come back anytime you want. That's so important that people know that the fact that they came in your doors matters to you and matters to the community. The question is, where can we access greeter training? I can, and when I send out the email, I'll include some links. I'm sorry. So Connect is that place where we're moving people from being a guest to being part of our community, to being a participant in things. And again, like Chris was talking about, you don't treat them like new meat in the water and the different ministries trying to grab them for their own. You really want to help them to discover their own gifts and where they might be led to be a more active participant in the community, in the congregation. That comes from conversation. And that doesn't come from, that's not a recruitment process. That's a conversation. And again, another form of invitation. Oh, if you love doing that, you might love to be part of this. It's not, oh, we need somebody to go clean the kitchen, which is great. That's more the thing that people raise their hands for than you try to dragoon them into. And connect is part of all the activities that you do in your church and out of your church, involving these new people in the life of your church and allowing them to use their talents and their ideas and their church. I don't know how many times in an Episcopal church I have heard one person, a newer person, pop up with an idea to have somebody who's been there for 30 years shoot it down with oh, that's not how we do it here. Let's purge that phrase from our, we're always changing how we do it here. Because when people come into our churches, we certainly want them to change. We want them to be changed by being part of our community and by being a worshiper of God with us. By necessity, we should change as well. That person has joined us and has brought their talents and their ideas and their personality and has changed the community by a factor of that person. And that means changing the things that we do as well. Not willy-nilly, not, but being open to the ideas and the input of newcomers is absolutely essential, both for the life of our church, but also to have that person feel, again, like they matter. They matter to this community because we take them seriously. We want them to express their talents the way that's good for them.
There were a number of questions in the chat, and I want to offer this we'll make this available too. People were asking about, what about thank you notes? What about texts and so forth? And this goes to my earlier point. We really try to focus on what a kind of a comprehensive. We have a 12-week follow-up sequence. Okay, so first-time guests, you're getting a text message on Sunday night or Monday morning. That same Tuesday, you get an email. The following Friday, you get any prayer requests for this Sunday. The next week, there's an email giving them a link to make their own prayer requests in the future online, so on and so forth. You get a call from the staff on Wednesday, and you can kind of see how this goes on. Over time, they get a link to getting, if they want a name tag, you name it. And all of the different next steps that we are currently working with are listed here. I'll make this available, and you guys can take a look at it for if it's helpful to you. Now, the 2 points I would make about that are, it's about 12 weeks, right? So a newcomer could be new for 12 weeks. They're actually new longer than that, but that kind of follow-up sequence can be very helpful. The other thing is, gosh, Chris, isn't that a lot? I feel like you're overwhelming them. The reality of it is, you don't always have all their information. You don't always have their text. You don't always have their email. You don't always have their address. So you're trying to catch them for what you have so they don't fall through the cracks. And you can always adjust that as you go, right? So if somebody gets very involved and you've been connecting them with them well, you don't need to follow through that whole sequence with them all the way out. That's for the folks who are maybe perhaps newer. So just wanted to offer that, and we'll make that available.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. And again, to your point, this is relational, so it's not nothing is a one size fits all.
Right.
Nothing is one size fits all.
And Steve, just a quick note.
Yeah.
Some of the criticism we've heard of Invite, Welcome, Connect is that much of it looks like it's designed for larger churches. And what we would say is your context is unique and you can scale back. And the smaller your church, the higher the value of relationship formation. You can be a very small church and you can foster a relationship with your visitors in different ways and follow up in fewer ways, perhaps, than one that is a little more sophisticated. It all is your choice, but keeping those values of relationship and intentionality and follow through are key, no matter the size. So we have resources that take you to a great depth, and we have resources that are very simple. So just keep in mind that it is about relationship, and that's how we encourage people to pay attention to that first and foremost for newcomers.
Yeah, I love that, Mary, and I love that you will be doing our small congregation series of webinars. We have 3 webinars planned beginning next month with you and with Ken and Jenny Fairs of the Diocese of Southwestern Virginia, who has been implementing Invite, Welcome, Connect programs very contextually with very small congregations throughout West Virginia. And I know this small congregations have been a passion of yours for a very long time. So if those of you who would be interested in being in those webinars, they are listed on our website on our events page, and you can sign up for them from there.
Steve, before you go on, there was one quick question asked how can you manage such a follow-up sequence in a small context where I don't have any staff? It's just a one-person show. Great question. I just linked into the chat the article that Steve mentioned. It's one I wrote about game-changing texts. Read that article and scroll to the bottom, and I cite 2 different online programs that will allow you to automate most of that sequence I just described. So automate it for as little as $25 a month, somewhere in that neighborhood. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris. Coming back into here. So how do you start an Invite, Welcome, Connect ministry? Well, I would, first of all, I'd encourage you to review our Getting Started materials on the website. And there are a few ways. This is not something that you can do by yourself. You can't come back and say, I want to start an Invite, Welcome, Connect ministry, and I would like to do it. This takes buy-in from the key stakeholders in your church. That includes clergy, it includes the vestry and other lay leadership, because this is an attitude change for your church itself. You may want to watch the video that's on our website. Are you ready for the training? At invitewelcomeconnect.com. And then you need to actually find other people in your church who are willing to be part of this and share those materials with them. You may want to do a book study group on the Invite, Welcome, Connect book. But do that groundwork first to get people excited and engaged and part of it, because that's going to be essential to any successful ministry, is making sure that everybody is on board. Am I right, Chris?
Absolutely. Yep.
We do have 3 training options available. We've talked about, I think we've talked about all of these a little bit. We have our in-person workshops, which are done by a number of trainers, most significantly by our founder, Mary Foster Palmer, who a typical training program is on your site beginning Friday night through all day Saturday, and then preaching at either your church or your cathedral on Sunday morning. And it's a nice kind of a very intensive, bring everybody together kind of training event, and it builds a lot of excitement for Invite, Welcome, Connect among folks. We have trained coaches who are available to help you in implementing Invite, Welcome, Connect. This is typically done, and Mary McGregor, who's on the call, she's our coaching coordinator. She will match your church or your diocese with a coach who meets with you every other month to support, encourage, provide guidance, but also help hold everybody accountable for doing the things that we commit to doing and helping them move forward. And it can be a really great aid in motivating people to keep going and keep doing things. And then we have our on-demand training. This is the image here is a screenshot of our friend Chris doing the invite portion. There are something like 30 steps, 30 like little individual steps to the training online that includes both videos and downloadable resources and exercises and idea generation tools. It's the sort of thing that can be done. Ideally, it's done in a group, your Invite, Welcome, Connect team, or your Invite team, or your Welcome team, or your Connect team, going through the training together, because there's opportunity for interaction and idea sharing and things like that as part of it. but it can also be done by an individual. It's a great way to help. Like when I first took the Invite, Welcome, Connect workshop from Mary Palmer, I went away so excited and so jazzed for it, but it was a diocesan event and there were only 2 other people from my church who attended the workshop, my wife and my rector. And I walked out of there thinking, oh gosh, if only Joel could have been here. And if only Cindy could have been here. Now Joel and Cindy can be there, because the training becomes available to everybody in your congregation who wants to be part of it. So it's great both to bring the team together to refresh skills over time, but also when new people want to join the Invite, Welcome, Connect team, that you can help bring them up to speed without sending them to another workshop anywhere. So that's a really is a really great addition to our training resources. And I have to say that Chris is very, very charming in his videos, and and everybody loves listening to Chris, right?
We'll edit that part out of the replay.
I will edit it to show your face blushing when more help from us. Again, the book, Invite, Welcome, Connect, Stories and Tools to Transform Your Church by Mary Foster Palmer. Very highly recommended for anybody who wants to start an Invite, Welcome, Connect ministry. As I say, it's available from forwardmovement.com. InviteWelcomeConnect.com has a ton of free resources to help you get going. And we're adding more all the time. And we have under our free resources our latest news, which are articles like the one that Chris shared with you. But we have at least several articles a month on the topics of evangelism, hospitality, and belonging. So that's an ongoing kind of thing. And join our mailing list. If you go to our news page, there's a place to join our mailing list if you're not part of it already. You'll get a lot out of, I hope, get a lot of it just being part of our community. We probably don't have time for our exercises, or we were going to do some breakout groups, but I want to do these as sort of take-home exercises, things that you can do with folks in your congregation. One is what we're calling mapping invitations, but it's really to sit down and share stories with one another about times where you felt truly invited into a community. What about that invitation made it feel authentic? What spoke to you about it? And based on that, what are ways that you can, in your community, create similar invitations to others in this period? And that's a great, it's an exercise. It's adapted from something that's in our training as well. It's a way to start thinking about putting yourself in the place of the stranger who hasn't come in. What has worked for you in getting you to feel truly invited into a new place? And how do you leverage that lesson to inviting others? Secondly, I encourage everybody, the next time you go to your church building, and doing it in a group is better than doing it alone, but you can do it alone as well. Walk up to your church, drive up to your church like you have never been there before. You're a complete stranger. Where are you supposed to park? When you park, how are you supposed to get in? Who says hello to you when you come in? I mean, you're not a stranger there, so people, I hope, are saying hello. But are there other people? Is it a welcoming environment if you're a stranger? Look around for what, if you didn't know where things were, how to do things, and nobody's there to tell you, what would be an obstacle to a newcomer coming in? Everything as simple as, where's the nursery, or where's Sunday school? How do you send your kids there? Where's the bathroom when you walk in the door? How do I get in the building? Simple things like that. And then just pick one thing that you could make better in the next 60 days, and then make it better. It's a fun thing.
Can I add to that idea?
Please.
I mentioned the secret shopper or mystery worshiper thing that I ran. You can do that in your own church. This is a great way to get your vestry or your rector, maybe who's a little bit not sure about this, on board. Have a couple of your friends, and by the way, this is a secret way to invite people to church. Invite a friend, say, look, would you be willing to come shop my church? and just pretend to be I don't need you to actually come to, don't actually be, I just need you to come shop my church. We have a checklist on the website that it's kind of like first time visitor checklist, fresh eyes checklist. They can go through it and invite a friend that you've been meaning to invite to church anyway. Invite them to shop your church just for fun, and then get their feedback, and then share that feedback, and they will provide you with unbelievable things that we've long since been blind to, or gotten accustomed to, or been used to, or don't think is a problem. It is a lot of fun, and it's a great way to kind of get people on board. And it can result, and I can tell you this, it works this way sometimes. Those secret shoppers sometimes actually end up coming back on their own because they liked your church and they liked your friendliness.
And I tell you, doing what I do for a living, I can't not do this anymore. I go to a new church and my eyes are looking around, because being a savvy churchgoer, I can usually figure this stuff out. But somebody who doesn't know how weird churches can be sometimes just doesn't know what to do. So it's a really good exercise, and it's the first step maybe to helping you build a higher level of intentionality, of really thinking about this. Just some kind of closing words we're going to know, and then we're going to throw it open to questions. And I personally, I know Chris probably has to go, but I'll stay as long as there are questions. But Invite, Welcome, Connect is a framework, but it is not a checkbox program. It's not a paint by numbers thing. It requires your commitment, and it requires your creativity and your response to the Holy Spirit. It is rooted in love and in hospitality and in accountability, and it is perfect for small experiments, trying things out. You don't have to succeed with everything you do. And if you take our training, you will be presented with way more things than you could actually implement. We encourage you to pick those things or come up with other things that will work for you in your context, and change them however you need to change them. But to get thinking about this in new and different ways, to be able to get to some sustainable growth for your program. But we talked about this already getting started. If you're interested in the on-demand training, we're going to send out a link that gives you days access to the training. Live workshop, you can come to our website, to the workshop page, if you want to look at options and costs. Same thing on our website. Book a coach on our website to see pictures of our coaches and their bios, and what's involved in getting a coaching program started with you. We're excited about this. If you would like to have from one of our experts a free 30-minute consultation about Invite, Welcome, Connect, about your particular context, scan the QR code that's on your screen, or come to the URL that's on the screen, invitewelcomeconnect.com/learn more, and you can fill out a form, and we'll schedule an online consultation with you. This is something new for us. We haven't done it before in this way, but I think it's a great way to kind of see whether Invite, Welcome, Connect is for you, but also to answer some questions off the bat for you. Chris, is there questions in chat that we need to respond to that we haven't?
There was a question, kind of leads to what you were saying a minute ago. Dorothy was asking, what if no one wants to lead the overall program? They want to lead specific projects, not exactly the whole program. And she elaborates to say, we have a group willing to implement, but no one willing to determine what we can do to suggest projects. So Mary McGregor, what are your thoughts on that? It can be a challenge, right? Because Invite, Welcome, Connect is a lot of potential material. It's a huge, those are lots of essentials. There's lots of ideas under each, where you have a congregation where, gosh, we want to do something, but we just need like 4 or 5 good ideas to start that we can manage in our context, with our budget, with our staff, or not, or lack of staff. What are your thoughts on that?
I really think if you've got a group that says, I'm willing to implement, really don't know where to start, this seems like a lot. If you decided, just made a few basic decisions and you followed through on them, i.e. things like, we are going to add a group of greeters in addition to our ushers this year. and then pursue a little training for that. There's a lot of information online. And if you successfully get these greeters together and you get them authentically doing a really good job on it, that's a huge success. I would say pick a few things. Do that walk through your church like Steve suggested. You're going to be shocked at what you see, because there are so many things that need addressing. You can pick a couple of things. We've got examples of creative parking signs. We have all kinds of examples of things that a lot of churches are using. And sometimes when a group that's willing, if they will go through the training that we offer or purchase the training, which they can access through their own congregation over the long haul for a year, and just say, we want to do one thing that's related to invite for our congregation. We want to do one thing in welcome, and we want to do one thing in connect, and do these three things in the next year. That's a huge success. So start small if you have to, if you're anxious about it or frustrated or think, oh, this thing has so much stuff, there's no way we can do it. Start small so that you have a few successes. You can feel good about it, and then you can grow from that. That would be my suggestion. Because I guarantee you, if you have a group that has said, we're committed, but we really don't know what to do, start small, pick one thing, and just go for it. And you'll be surprised how energizing that is.
Yeah. Our one thing that we did, our first thing after we started doing Invite, Welcome, Connect, we started with Invite. And our very first thing, lowest hanging fruit, we had somebody in the congregation who was, I don't know, a printing store or something like that. We had bumper stickers that said, all welcome, no exceptions, in red with our website. And that was kind of our slogan of the church. And next thing you know, we had those available at coffee hour. We passed them out in the bulletin. Everybody's had, you walk around in our parking lot, you see that bumper sticker on every single car. And it just got everybody excited. They loved that part of their church. It was part of why they loved the church, that we were welcoming to everyone, no exceptions. And they suddenly were like, hey, wait a minute, what a great thing. Oh, we made a magnet so they didn't stick to your bumper sticker, by the way. That's a little trick of the trade. But anyway, yeah, that was talk about low-hanging fruit, right? But it got a lot of enthusiasm. It got a lot of energy. And next thing you know, we were off and running. So that's a great addition.
There are so many things that you can do, but you only it starts with one thing. And so do one thing, and that's fine. That's fine. Other questions that we can answer for you. I know we're a bit over time. Chris, are you able to stay with us a little longer? Or are you?
Yep. I've got another 20 minutes.
Okay. You can, I think, we're whittled down enough. If you want to just unmute it to ask your question, that's fine. The recording, I think, will not include the chat, although we can grab some key points out of the chat. Want to respect individual people's privacy and not necessarily throw everything that they said in there, but any links, any good questions that had answers in there, any resources that are in the chat, you'll get.
Yeah, I've been sharing links to stuff, and we'll share all that stuff.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's a good question, Rich. When will the recording be available? I don't want to just throw it out raw. So give me a couple of days to edit it and make it pretty. But it should be, I hope, by the end of this week. And we'll send out a link to everybody. That email will include also information to sign up for the small congregations series if you haven't signed up already, and some of the resources that we've talked about here.
Lots of interest in greeter training, so we'll be sharing that.
Yeah,
which is great. There's a lot of books out there, by the way, folks. If you wanted to jump around on Amazon, you'll see lots of greeter trainings. You can dig around on the website, but we'll share the stuff we have. I'll tell you, here's a funny story about greeters. You never know, right? I've had more than a few newcomers tell me this. Our ushers are sometimes the other side of the greeters. Our ushers at our church like to wear suits and boutonnieres, okay? Very traditional look. And I've had more than a few newcomers tell me, Chris, we didn't come in the first time we came. Why? Well, we saw the way people were dressed. They were wearing tux. It looked like it was a wedding. And I go, oh my gosh, those are our ushers. Don't mind them, blah, blah, blah. And So yes, greeters, lots of good tips on greeters. That could be a whole webinar. We should do a whole webinar on
Webinar on greeters. And one of the key things I train our greeters to say is, are you familiar with the Episcopal Church? And I guarantee you that opens up stories, and they tell you their whole life story about church relationships. And it's awesome because really greeters are there not to say, you're just going to love our church. No, it is all about the visitor, all about the visitor. So if they can remember that you ask questions to visitors, are you familiar with the Episcopal Church? What questions might you have about our church? It's just amazing what they will tell you. And also, I just want to say one more thing. There's a lot of thought about, is that overwhelming to collect information and that? I've been doing this work for a very, very long time. And I would say that 95% of the people that I have said, would you mind filling out, and we use iPads, would you mind just putting your information in this iPad? No, no problem. 95% of the time. And if they don't want to do it, they'll tell you.
Yeah.
But it's so rare. It's just stunning how many will give you their information because they're searching. They're looking. They've got so many other options on Sunday morning. It's not even funny, including other churches. Yeah. So for them to walk into your doors says they probably already watched you online. They have a sense for one reason or another. They might have had a grandmother who was an Episcopalian or a friend, or maybe they went to a baptism or something along the line. They're curious about you. So don't hesitate thinking we're being overbearing by asking them their name.
And people it will matter to them that their visit mattered to you.
Yes.
And if I can throw in one training for ushers, crucial. Ushers should pay attention. And if a visitor is sitting in the pew of a regular attendee, when that regular attendee comes in, the usher should say to the person, someone is sitting in your pew, leave them alone. Go sit some, because I have seen people walk up to visitors sitting in their pew, say, hey, you're in my pew.
Awful.
And don't do that. So the usher should watch for that and give somebody the heads up. Hey, somebody's sitting there, find someplace else to sit. Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank you all for your time. I think so many of you came today. So many of you stayed so long because we ran a little bit long. I really appreciate it. We will send out as quickly as we can a link to the recording and all the resources that we talked about. If you have, I encourage you to come to our site. If you have any questions, reach out to us. We'll get right back to you. We're really care about this, and we really care that you came and that you care about it too. So any way that we can help you in building your ministries of evangelism, hospitality, and belonging, that's the mission that Christ has given to us. So please holler at us.